Hello, welcome back to Beyond the Diploma. My name is Avery Park, and I'm here with my co-host Emerson Sprinkle and our editor and producer, Catherine Trappini. Today we have a very special episode for you. We have our professional vocalist, Kara. And this was a very, very fun interview, I thought. I thought the energy was really great. She was just so sweet. She was so warm.
Yeah, she definitely is someone who has lived many lives, which you will hear, throughout the interview. She moved to LA when she was 18 years old, which is a really scary thought for anyone to do, obviously, but was very brave and worked out for her. She's traveled all around the world, been everywhere, so it was really cool to hear what she had to say.
No, yeah, and I feel like she really brought that energy, which was, super nice. And I really liked what she said about the living your dream thing, and she kind of briefly said, in other words, she said, basically rejection is redirection, which I really liked because I feel like we haven't really touched on that yet in our previous episodes, so yeah.
Right, I think she was just so positive and it was really inspiring because obviously, like Emerson said, she's following her dream, and that's very scary. It's a very brave thing to do, especially in the entertainment business when you see just so much rejection. But one of my favorite moments is when she said, you only need one yes. You can hear 100 no's, all you need is one yes. And I thought that was especially very, very inspiring. Speaking of which, when Emerson was talking about how much she's traveled, she has performed from in so many places like LA, Vegas, and she was on tour with Blake Shelton, but she has performed in the Kremlin.
Which is crazy.
Professional vocalist,
No, she's performed for the Prince of Monaco and the Princess of Morocco. Which is
royalty.
Crazy.
She's professional on the royalty level.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's so cool.
It was awesome to
Right.
not even only meet her, but just, hear everything she had to say. Feel like she was super inspiring.
Yeah,
so.
and she felt very authentic, too. She was just so radiant, and you can tell that, she's a professional, and she's very successful at what she does. Yeah, you can tell that she's the pro. She's the best.
And she was happy to be there, too, which was great. Especially because one of the biggest things she emphasized was that you can have all the talent in the world, but you have to be someone that people want to work with. And I definitely got that vibe from her, because she was, just the nicest person.
Yeah, she made time for us, even though she was booked. She was
she was, filming for the AMAs. She had just wrapped season 27 of The Voice. She was fully booked and still made time for us.
So very exciting episode. We won't talk about it anymore, and we'll let you watch for yourselves.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Diploma. My name is Emerson Sprinkle and I'm here with my co-host Avery Park, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Kara Britz. Would you mind introducing yourself for us?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Kara Britz, recently married, so soon to be Kara Britz Burnell. And I work in the music industry. So I'm a vocal contractor and a vocal arranger and consultants and touring background singer. So really happy to be here to talk about my career.
We are so excited. Okay, so kind of starting off, obviously you've been a part of The Voice since pretty much the beginning, one of the earliest seasons, right?
Yeah, yep.
So kind of how can you just talk about how that opportunity came about, and then what has kept you with the show all these years? Because obviously you just wrapped season 27, so it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been on forever. I think we're at 14 years, I think, on air. I was there for production rehearsals before season 1, but I was touring with Joe Cocker at the time, and I had already agreed to be with Joe. And so I wasn't able to do season 1 in the house band, but after season 1 aired, I was like, that is such a cool show. So I called the musical director, Paul, and I was like, is there any room for me anywhere? I'll buy coffees, and he was like, yeah, I'll call you back in 2 days. And so he called the producers and, some of the powers that be over there. And so I've been with them since season 2, and I hired the other 2 singers to join me on season 2. So we just got a team together and officially became the contractor, I think, in season 3 or season 4. And the rest is history.
That is just the coolest. I just can't believe that happened. So I guess now, obviously you do that. You also work as a background singer on tour. Right now, you're with Blake Shelton, correct?
Yes, I've been with
So,
Blake for 10 years.
which is so crazy also. So can you just kind of like talk about again how you got into that, but also like what the difference has been like live TV versus like touring?
Super different. So, the TV side is super hectic. Like you have to be so ready for all the curveballs. Like the adaptability is like top of the list. Somebody that people want around in like the 17th hour of the day. Also very important. Like, just kind of not necessarily just having the talent, like you've got to have the personality to kind of go with the flow, stand up when you need to stand up for something, but also like let other things go and kind of get that flow going. So that's super important there. Similarly, you have to use the same superpowers, but in a very different way. On tour, it's a lot of waiting around. It's a lot of adapting to your travel plans and what the airplanes are doing that day. Is there an Uber in this small town I just flew into by myself and it's 11 o'clock at night and I don't know how I'm getting to my hotel and the band is coming in from Nashville and I'm the only one that flew that day. So there's lots of different things that like across the board, they're just great qualities to have no matter where you're working or what you're up to. But in my profession, the adaptability, being somebody that can troubleshoot and find solutions, and then also just have the personality and the ability to just stay on task. Like just know that you'll apparently sleep when you're dead because you're just like, I'm so tired, I can't see straight, but I am not in a safe place yet, or we haven't finished what we need to get done for TV tomorrow. Because a lot of times they'll switch a key of a song and we have to pre-record all the vocals, or we have to come up with like a new arrangement or get something ready because the choir is going to be meeting us the next morning to record the parts and we need to get them materials. It's like, as much as you just want to like throw the towel in and say it's time to clock out, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to finish the job, whether it's 1 a.m. or 4 a.m. or God forbid 10 p.m., which would be like a godsend for us. But so I think just like staying on course, staying on task, and just knowing that in the end it will be worth it. It's definitely a passionate job.
Mhm.
So
No, yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense because
yeah.
obviously you have that passion for what you do and things like that. And kind of along the same lines, obviously you've built this very like non-traditional career.
Yeah.
So did you think that like moving to LA was always the path that you were going to take?
I I knew that I wanted to do music. I just didn't know what that looked like, when I was growing up, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me doing what I do now.
Mhm.
But I think it's really interesting. Like I'm a faith-based person, and it's really interesting for me to see how my steps have kind of been put together even unbeknownst to me. Like my dad was a consultant for the government. Like he would take commercial company products and show them how to do business with the government. And my mom was a Christian singer and
Mhm.
so taught me harmonies at a young age. So when I put both of those professions together and like what I came from and what I grew up admiring and learning, because I had to be quiet if my dad was on a work call and I would just listen, because what else are you going to do? You just sit there and be quiet in the car. And I was able to learn so much that I didn't realize was being taught to me for this exact reason.
Mhm.
Because the thing with vocal contracting, I had no idea this was a job. I just knew I liked to sing and I liked to sing harmonies, and I didn't necessarily want to be famous. I just didn't know what all of that meant for me. So finding a show like The Voice just as a background singer, and then realizing, oh my gosh, there's these things called vocal contractors. This
Mhm.
is huge deal for me. And something I learned getting into the TV side of it, which is something I never saw coming, was that there is literally a whole village of people with passions that can be fed and working in a union-based TV show. I mean, you've got people that paint all the sets. You've got people that build the sets, then they go to the paint department, and then they go over to props department, and then the music department is learning all the music, and they're hiring string players and horn players and percussionists and all these extra things. We're hiring choirs and getting to combine harmonies. It's something I never knew was an actual job, and I pinch myself because I actually can't believe that this is my job. So yeah, super grateful.
No, that's so great. So I know you mentioned your mom being like a Christian singer. So I guess would you say that you like grew up in a very like follow your dreams household and kind of were there any like caveats to that?
Yeah, I was really lucky, and I have a lot of friends that have similar professions to me. And something that they always admire about my parents, that I've always admired it, but more recently I've realized how rare it was. My parents were so motivated to let us follow our dreams rather than say, you have to go do this profession, or you have to go to this trade school, or you've got to go to college. Like, it was encouraged in my sister because it made sense for her path, but it wasn't encouraged for me because it didn't make sense for what I wanted to do. And so my parents actually encouraged me to move to LA when I was 18.
That's so great.
Thankfully, my brother and sister were here, so they kept me alive because I didn't even know how to do my laundry when I moved out of the house. I was not ready, but yeah, my parents were a huge impact, and I credit them entirely to the ability to actually do this for a living because they let me get started on the good foot. I got a 4-year head start, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel like that's so great, especially because it's been so good to talk to people who have like so many different educational backgrounds, and like to hear like the success you had, like not maybe following the most traditional background, but like doing what was best for you and like what was best for your path. I think is really motivating to hear for people. So I guess now I am wondering,
There's pros and cons, but I'll get to that.
no, for sure, yeah. But now, like talking more about your work and like day-to-day things, I guess what do you think is something that people don't realize about what being like a professional background vocalist is, like what you do that people might not think about?
I think for us, like we're forced to be chameleons, and we're like the cheerleader in the band. Is that's the way I look at it. Like we're the ones that are bringing just the excitement and the passion to the stage and in our own way, you know. Like for me, if my lead singer is not feeling great, it's my mission from God to make sure that they feel like they have a good show, so that they're getting energy from me if they need to push through a difficult song, or they feel protected that if their voice falls out or something, like I've got them, or we can do that other song that we haven't done in years because they know I've got it, you know, or whatever the case may be. I think being a background singer requires so much discipline and so much ability to just be a chameleon. Like when I moved out to LA, I was a rock singer, and I grew up in the rock scene. My brother's in a professional rock band, and your dad, it was my brother's best friend, which I love. So they, you know, I grew up listening to all the music that they listened to, which was like 90s grunge and 90s rock, and so I was always wanting to be the cool sister. And when I got to LA, I realized I was singing from the wrong place, and I had to have a vocal surgery because I wasn't able to sing certain parts of my voice. And to be a background singer, you've got to have all your notes. Like if you're a lead singer and that's part of your shtick, like they can build around that and write songs around what your range is. But when you're a professional background singer, you've got to be able to jump in wherever they see fit. Like my first big breakout gig was touring with Joe Cocker, and it's this like really soulful, hearty, like soprano vocal. I'm like an alto too, which in singer like I'm the lowest of low voices. Like it sits a little lower than most women's with where my break is, and I get this call, and it's for like one of my favorites, Joe Cocker, but it's for soprano for a 2-year tour. And I was fresh off of surgery, and I was like, oh my God. But if I hadn't had the surgery, I wouldn't have even been able to say yes to the gig. I think it's really about discipline and just being the positive person in the band, you know, like bringing energy when you're just kind of standing around waiting for the chorus to hit or your part to come, like just making sure that you're encouraging and that you're that steady constant. When somebody looks to their side, you're right there engaged with them, like you're rocking with them, whatever they need, you're there.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no, that sounds, you know, amazing and makes total sense because I feel like, again, what you said, like people out can kind of adapt to the main singer's voice, but it's, yeah, you have to be a chameleon. So I think that's really great.
Yeah.
So my next question is, I know you just mentioned how you toured with Joe before you toured with Blake. Can you talk about, obviously you were a lot younger when you toured with Joe compared to now. So can you talk about how it's been different kind of like as you've gone and like learned from the industry, how touring is?
Yeah, I mean, touring is really interesting. It's a huge part of where I grew up. The hard part about touring is like you have to be extremely flexible, and you have to like really protect your voice, your emotional state, your physical body, because touring and traveling really takes it out of you, but you're doing something that you love so much. So there's like one night where there's 20,000 people, or if you're at a festival in Europe, it's like 120,000 people. It's a sea of people giving back so much joy that you're trying to put out into the show. And it's this crazy high that like it's really hard to explain. Like it's just a rush of adrenaline. And then you're traveling and you have a middle seat on an European plane where somebody next to you might smell really bad because deodorant, and it's like just little things. You just go on these ups and downs, and then you miss your family, and like relationships are hard, and just keeping up with anything consistent becomes like really, really, really difficult. It gets put on the back burner, for lack of better terms. So I feel like my whole 20s was incredible because I grew so much as a person, and I really was able to like tap into all different cultures. I spent 3 months in Japan. I spent a couple years in Europe. I've been like to Morocco, which is the corner of Africa. I haven't gotten into the safari world yet, but like I've gotten to see most of the world. But in that give and take, I wasn't able to have a steady relationship. I wasn't able to have the dog I always wanted. I wasn't able to really be there for my family. Like I missed a lot of baby showers and weddings and, all these events that I desperately wanted to be there for. So it's a give and take. But touring is where you can really cut your teeth. It is spectacular. Like if you're willing to give that part of yourself up just for a minute, and really explore the world, I 10 out of 10 recommend. It's one of the coolest. Oh, Avery's here. One of the coolest things that I've ever done, because cultures, religions, passions, all of that. Hi. It was really special. Yeah. Really, really cool experience. So
no, that's so cool.
So our next question is, obviously you've traveled very far for your career. I know you've performed in Vegas, but also all the way to the Kremlin, which is just, I've been telling Emerson all about this, like that was mind-blowing for me when I first heard it. So I have to know, like, what's been your most surreal or kind of pinch me moment so far?
I mean, the Kremlin was pretty cool. Like it seems like it was an eternity ago, but it was wild. I mean, like obviously security was absolutely insane. We had to go through like so many checkpoints just to get there. And then I still actually don't know who we performed for. It was a dark room. So no clue. Don't think I want to know. And then the other crazy one was we actually performed for the Princess of Morocco. Or nope. Yeah, Prince of Monaco and the Princess of Morocco. Yeah, which was really cool. Just to know that there's royalty present and you're able to just be on stage and, be behind a legend like Joe Cocker and be able to have those experiences, but like as a job, like you get paid at the end of the day. It's like, what? This is the craziest, coolest experience. Those were really, really special. And then I think like, having moments, my first TV appearance was on the American Music Awards in like 2006 or 2007. And it was behind Lindsay Lohan, but my brother was the music director. So my brother was on bass and I was singing in the VGVs. And there was this moment right before they opened the curtain, because she was about to perform and they opened the curtain right before he comes over and he gives me a fist bump. And he's like, "Are you ready, bud?" And it was like one of the moments, like, it was a mile marker for me. It was like, okay, this isn't just a dream anymore. Like today's the day that you're getting paid to be here and your brother is here to protect you and make sure that everything is going well and that you're carrying yourself the way that you should. And like, I just feel so grateful that I had so many of my buddies, like including my brother, his best friend, Justin, just a whole group of these amazing people that kept it together for me, being the kid sister. And that was huge blessing, especially because I moved out when I was 18. I needed some guidance. So yeah, that was cool.
As special and cool as these experiences sound, I'm sure they were also very like nerve-wracking, and especially as like a vocalist, a lot of jobs, a lot of things can be considered performances, like job interviews or presentations, but selfishly, like I want to ask, especially like as an athlete myself, I know like it takes a lot of work to kind of bring out your best performance like all the time, especially like you said, you're getting like paid to do this, like you're being paid to be there. So can you kind of talk about how you fine tune like that skill of being able to perform at the best you can, like every time? I need to know because I
Yeah. It's a lot of discipline. So I thankfully have a very temperamental body in general, apparently. So it's a very physical gig. So like Mediterranean diet, doing vocal warm-ups, vocal rest, chilling out on alcohol when you're on tour. Like there's a lot of things that I've learned. I know you guys are 18, but it'll be important at some point. But I'm noticing just like what sugar does to your body, what everything does, because it all affects your voice. And then the other side of it is when you are stressed out or you are nervous for a gig, the first place my anxiety shows up, and I think this is for a lot of people, especially they say there's a chakra here, you carry your stress right in your throat, and it's literally right by your vocal cords. So like anything that I'm stressed out about, if I don't know how to compartmentalize it, I get choked up. Like people say like, oh, that's going to choke me up. It's like, it literally will choke you up on this gig and you won't be able to sing. So I have gotten really good at compartmentalizing my feelings. You know, like when it's time to work, I go to work. And then I cry when I get in my car if I'm having a bad day or whatever it is. And it's not probably the healthiest thing to do, but it's literally a survival mode for me, to be able to compartmentalize feelings and emotions, and then just really sticking to a strict diet. I don't do dairy, just like limiting sugar as much as I can. And then just like making sure that my physical and emotional like state are in a steady place so that I can pull off these crazy hours. Because the voice hours they're not normal. It's like on a tour, you sound check for like an hour, maybe 2 at max. And then you do a show that's maybe 90 minutes, maybe a couple hours. But when you're at The Voice or on a TV production, you kind of have to be ready to sing all the time, especially if you're in a house band, because, you know, your call time could be 8 a.m. and you're singing in a choir, and then you're still rehearsing at 8 p.m. another song that like a contestant's doing with just the house band. So you've been singing for 12 hours and you know, you haven't seen the sun. So it can be a little intense. So yeah, it's a lot of physical prep.
No,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, that sounds very strenuous. I can't imagine like the learning curve to that, but it definitely seems like you got it down. And so we know that you just wrapped season 27 of The Voice, like we said. So kind of like just wondering, like, what's the next like step? What's happening in your life? Are you just like chilling, taking a rest, or is there something going on?
Well, I just was offered a position to do more vocal consulting on a couple new shows, including The Voice, but also I was able to come in for some like executive callbacks for Blake's new show, The Road, that's airing in the fall on CBS. That's cool because it's kind of like it's a look into what life actually looks like when you're trying to be a new artist that's opening for a major label artist. And so that's going to be a really neat show. So I got to do some vocal consulting for that. And then I did a little vocal consulting for The Voice over the past few weeks. And then I vocal coach on a show called The Masked Singer. So that is hopefully going to be coming back in the fall. They haven't confirmed it yet, but that's something that's, you know, the nature of our game is you just kind of hope the calls come in. And then on a personal level, I got married in September. We just got a puppy and we're hoping to start a family. So, you know, as many like home gigs as I can get while continuing to tour with Blake, is what I hope to do. So I'm hoping that Blake does more residencies in Vegas, because that's awesome, because you get to stay put in one place for a couple weeks at a time. But next for me is I fly out Saturday and I go to Panama City, Florida, to do a festival with Blake. And I think then we do CMA Fest, and we've got some festivals throughout the summer, and then also doing The Voice, because we're starting to film that in the fall. So yeah, got a few things going on. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like you have like a lot of different gigs with Blake, but also on just generally, if you could work with like any artist, like past or present, we just wanted to know who would it be and like why.
That's a really good question. Let me not get this wrong. I have like my 5 top fave singers of all time. Definitely Kelly Clarkson. And I'm lucky enough to have gotten to sing with her a time or two through my good friend Jess, who is her main singer. She sings on her show as well. So definitely Kelly Clarkson, love. Steven Tyler, I know that he just had an injury, so past or present. And then Annie Lennox has always just been iconic to me. Chris Cornell, may he rest in peace. I think he had one of the best rock voices ever. And Aretha Franklin, Shaka Khan, any of that like soulful, texturized, just amazingness. So yeah, Kelly really embodies a lot of it. So when Kelly became famous, I was probably just starting high school, and to see like a bubbly young Texas girl singing all these huge songs and having a career, but still being really kind to everybody, that meant a lot to me, because it was like, okay, now I can see somebody in that position that looks and sounds a little like me, that I can do this, So that was pretty epic. Love her.
No, yeah. I was gonna say I'm also a huge fan of Kelly Clarkson, so that sounds awesome. There's always that joke that's like, if you're a singer, like don't let Kelly Clarkson cover your song because she's bad. She'll do it better.
You got Kelly Clarkson. I'm so sorry.
So now obviously we've just talked about this like whole career you've built. So what advice would you give to like aspiring artists who want to build a career in entertainment?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that helped me was, one, when you go to an audition, we're also nervous when we walk into an audition, but something that really helped me was that you just need one yes. You're going to hear so many no's, but you only need one yes. So if you get a ton of no's and you're feeling discouraged and some other girl's getting all the gigs and you're not getting them yet, you just need one yes. And I promise you that it might be protecting you from something, or it might be preparing you for something even better than you could have hoped, hearing all the no's. But also, when you walk into an audition, they need your spot filled as badly as you want it. So having that confidence, like, I could be this girl for you, and just consistently showing up for yourself and showing up for them, be early, be professional, know more than what they asked you to know. Like, when I walk into auditions, I know what their shows look like. I've watched it online. I've probably learned all the parts in case they want me to jump around, try different things, like just being over prepared, and then be a nice person. Like, you've got to be somebody that people want to be around, because having the talent is just half of the gig. If you got to live on a bus with somebody, you don't want them to be weird and rude and have an ego. Like, you just, know how to give people their space, but also know how to bring your own energy into the room that can add to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like your mentality of when you were saying you only need one yes. I think that's very like inspiring in a positive way. But I'm sure going off of that, there have been, I'm sure, many moments when you've doubted that path. But going off of Emerson's question of what advice would you give on, I guess, getting through that doubt, I'm sure in the entertainment business there must be a lot. But so anything you can speak on that.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier, I'm a pretty faith-based person. I think finding your grounding, finding what grounds you and helps you feel at home. Like, that's so important to have that check-in, whether it's your parents or a best friend or a partner or a faith, like wherever you can check in with yourself and find your like level, like kind of grounding every time that you're starting to get discouraged. It's really important for me. I don't think I would have been able to get through my 20s because I was very lonely, but I always had Christ. And so I would go to church and I would just sit in the back and I would cry or just have my little breakdowns or whatever it was, or I'd go on a nice long drive up the PCH, or I'd count houses when I was like, how am I going to make rent? I would literally go and count cars and count houses and be like, there is so much money in this town. I know that I can get to my rent. I know I can do this. And I cleaned houses. I did people's taxes. I mean, puppy sat, house sat, whatever it needed to be, just to buy more time, but I would say, don't give up on yourself. Like, anybody that I say that I see move out here and they're starting to get discouraged after like month 2 or month 3, you are just getting started. Like, you have got to give yourself a year. If you can figure out a way to make a year make sense out here. I worked at Victoria's Secret. I worked at Sephora. I worked at Victoria's Secret because they paid for my parking so that I could go to Musicians Institute around the corner, because I couldn't get up early enough and find a darn parking spot every morning. It was like too much because I wasn't able to like focus on work. So I went to Victoria's Secret. I said, can you guys pay for my parking, like a monthly pass if I work a couple shifts? And they're like, sure, we could figure that out. And so they paid for my parking. Then I made friends with the security guards, and they would walk me to the corner so I wouldn't get mugged in Hollywood, because that's a crazy place. But like, I think really believing in yourself and finding a place for you to be grounded, and then just really getting after it. Like, you've got to be creative with ways to make it from point A to point B, because if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're already late in a way. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to find ways to get around the norm, so that you can get into those rooms, and just, no matter how you can get in the room, whether you buy a coffee for somebody or you just need to be there to pick up a case for somebody else that you met that already has the gig, like, just get in the room, just be around them. And then eventually the process of, you sing, you know, I worked in the audience department at Jimmy Kimmel Live for a long time as a PA. And the house band guitar player, Toshi Yanagi, came up to me one day and he goes, "Hey, don't you sing? Didn't I see you on a session like years ago?" And I was like, "Yeah, I sing." And he's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Trying to make rent, you know, like I'm literally here because I just want to be around TV and learn how it works. And this is such a cool job. I get to see free shows." And so I went, and one day we were at Crafty and he said, "Hey, I've got this gig in Japan. Would you be interested in touring in Japan?" And he gave me my first tour. And to this day, it was probably the best I've been paid as far as the scale of like what you get on gigs. And it just was because I was around and you know, easy to talk to in those spaces. So that I would just say, find your grounding and then just stay in the rooms. Don't give up on yourself.
I feel like that's really inspiring, but also really applicable to not just music, to a lot of things. Like keeping with it and, you know, just keep on going on, figuring it out. You clearly did. So other people can too. So I guess now we just like have one more question we ask everyone, which is like, what's one thing that you wish you had known in high school? And if you were to go back and do this all over again, would you do it all the same? Would you change anything? Things like that.
That's a heavy question. I'm almost grateful that I didn't know what I didn't know when the time came, you know, and now looking back being like, oh, how cool. Like, I did that anyway. And then you're proud of yourself. But what I will say is, you guys have such a cool gift, I think, this generation, because there's so much more exposure to so many different types of careers and passions and things that you can see. Like, I go and I scroll TikTok and I see 15 singers in 20 minutes that just sing down. And like, I can find them, I can DM them, I can say, "Hey, do you want to come join our choir?" Like, I can reach them. And I think that like, what I wish I knew in high school was that I didn't necessarily have to see somebody that looked exactly like me doing what I wanted to do. And I think that that's a huge deal. Like, I almost needed to wait to see somebody else do it. And it's something that's just clicked in like the last, like, probably 10 years of, I can do it too. Like, I can be the first white blonde female to step into that role, or whatever it is, like whatever I'm getting in my head about. It's like, I think knowing that we have this empowerment as women that we haven't always had, just knowing that there's space for you and to step into it confidently, but also being confident that you can step into that space as a wonderful woman. Like, I bring a lot of empathy to the room. I bring a lot of understanding, and I bring a lot of troubleshooting, and I'm really good at multitasking. And I think that those are superpowers that I got from my mom. So it's like having the ability to believe in myself without having to see somebody else that looked like me in the position is something I wish I could have like clocked a little earlier. It could have sped me up a little bit.
That makes total sense. And I think is really great advice that, again, kind of, you know, transcends just the music industry. So yeah, that's all the questions we have for you. Thank you so much for coming on. It was so nice to
I hope
speak
I
with
wasn't
you.
too long-winded.
No, oh my gosh, every answer was so great.
Or you ladies, I can say. But yeah, this is awesome. What a cool project.
Thank you
So
so
where are you
much.
going? You're going to Pitt, right? You're going.
I'm going to Pitt, yeah.
Congratulations. And how about you, Avery?
I'm going to Stanford.
Casual.
Casual.
You guys are going to take over the world. That's so exciting. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Well, congratulations. Happy senior year. This is huge.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
It was, again, like, thank you for making the time to do this.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is
So
so
thank you
You're
for
very
asking me.
busy.
Oh, it's okay. I'm honored to do it. Thank you for asking me. This is really cool. It's cool to look back and think about stuff. It helps me too with what's
Mhm.
coming. Nice
Yeah.
to have a check-in. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything. Good luck with everything. Oh, my mom told me to say hi. So I had to make sure I did that. But yeah, okay, I will see you later, whenever. But thank you so much for coming on.
Sounds good. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Yeah.